Disclaimer. This is a work of satirical fiction. Any resemblance to real places or situations is purely coincidental and exaggerated for comedic effect. The story intentionally contains factual inaccuracies and absurdities as part of its artistic expression.
Listen, guys, we're going to talk about a war with Iran that no one other than Israel wants, which is imminent. Mexican cartel drug wars causing chaos in Puerto Vallarta and the Yucatan Peninsula. More to that story for sure. And a State of the Union address last Tuesday, which revealed there is no more union. Meanwhile, NBC News mercenary Brandy Zadrozny is back, telling you what to think about Candace Owens. We're going to cover that and much, much more with my friend Jeff Berwick, the dollar vigilante. Jeff, welcome back. How are you?
Thanks, Sean. Great to be back. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I have something to show you, which I think you will like. Guess what I watched last night?
Ah, awesome.
Yeah. The Jones Plantation. Written by Larkin Rose, directed by Andrew Treglia, and I believe it was shot, at least in part, in Puerto Rico. Do I have that right?
No, it was shot in the U.S.
Was it really? Was it shot in the
during the
US?
COVID. Yeah, they actually, it was like super hard for them to do. It was right in the heart of the COVID stuff. And they had all these regulations for the Actors Guild, and you had to all wear masks and all this stuff. Of course, they didn't do it. But yeah, they shot it in Georgia, and they had to shoot it in about a few days in the wintertime, and it was actually freezing cold. So all those scenes that look like it's warm, they were just totally freezing.
Well, last time we talked, you'd asked if I'd seen the Jones Plantation, and I confessed that I had not. So I searched for it last night. I just want to show a snippet for the audience in case they want to check it out. What I would say about it is the style is very Tarantino, Django Unchained centric, very well done, very cinematic. And let me just play a little bit of it for folks.
You can control a man for a period with brute violence, but you cannot truly own a man unless he thinks your word is law and that he must obey, and is virtuous for doing so.
And is virtuous for doing so. Maybe I'll think to leave the entire trailer below this video. You know, it's very compelling, and I think you wanted me to watch that last time you were on just so I could break my conditioning. The left-right paradigm is really falling away, and there's a huge fracture in MAGA. Case in point, Candace and Tucker, enemies number one to the Zionists in America. Jeff?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm so glad you watched it, Sean. That movie helps break the mind control, because we're all actually under massive mind control in various ways, from the 12 years in the government indoctrination camps to the communist colleges and the television programming, which is called programming for a reason. It's all set up to be mind control. And of course, most of that stuff that comes out on the programming all comes from the CIA and Mossad and stuff like that. So yeah, in many ways, many of us have a lot of programming put into our heads, and that Jones Plantation really helps kind of break that programming. I wonder what did you think of it?
Well, I thought it was very well done. I thought the African-American man playing the lead was probably the best actor, but I thought it was extremely well directed and well done. And the moral of the story is, it's easy to make the slaves stay on the plantation if you make them believe they have ownership in their slavery, Jeff. I mean, that's the moral of the story, and maybe that's the system under which we all live.
Yeah, that's absolutely the system. And I think Jones Plantation really kind of shows that from a perspective of sort of like a fiction movie, kind of showing how they've set up all these things over centuries and centuries to keep people enslaved. And I should point out that that entire movie was made for under $200,000, I believe. A lot of that was raised through people like myself. I was actually the largest donator to it, and then a lot of my audience also donated for it. So yeah, it was hard for us to put that together, but we're all really happy with it. It's great to show kind of your friends who are still really trapped in the matrix, basically, of the programming, and really show them that that's what has been done to people. It really has been that way. Everything that they've told us about everything has basically been a lie. And, you know, to some people, it's kind of scary to find that out. But for me personally, I find it super exciting, because what we find out is that there's this basically entity that's trying to destroy us all, enslave us, make us sick. But once you find out that that's actually going on, you can actually overcome it. You can actually rise up above it and stop being chained down to their systems.
Let me just circle back and say something about the acting. When you watch a film directed by, say, Tarantino, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, like Django Unchained, or pick any film Nicole Kidman has been in, I always remark at the acting ability of these people. But then you realize that these people, Leonardo DiCaprio, named in the Epstein files. Nicole Kidman, her father is said to have been a notorious pedophile in Australia. And then you think about MK Ultra and the mind compartmentalization it takes to be a very effective actor. You let the set melt away and you're in that moment. I think there's a through line here with these people who maybe were abused as children who are now some of the most famous skilled actors in the world, Jeff. What do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lot of those people are raised up through those things. The entire Hollywood, the entire entertainment industry is basically ran by those same satanic pedivores. It's not even pedophiles anymore, as we're finding out more and more evidence of, but they're actual pedivores. They actually eat children and stuff. And we've seen so many of those people come out, and we've seen the one-eyed symbolism that they all have to do. They're all in a big sort of what you could call a satanic cult. But I actually think the best actor, I think the best, you might be surprised who I think is the best actor currently alive today. It's Donald Trump, because he fooled so many people. And he's basically acting. That's basically an acting job. Now, of course, he's been in over like hundreds of movies. He's got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He's in the World Wrestling Hall of Fame as well. So it shouldn't come as a surprise, but I think a lot of people didn't realize that basically what he's doing is acting, and he's actually fooled, unfortunately, like tens or hundreds of millions of people on Earth, thinking that that's legitimate. He's basically running basically the front lines. He's like the teleprompter reader for this entire system.
It's interesting you'd say that because there's a through line there too, and it's Erica Kirk and her pageant history, one of which is tied directly to Donald Trump. One last thing I want to say regarding Nicole Kidman, I think it's very important that people know this. She has a new film out, 2024 anyway, new to me, Baby Girl. I watched it the other night with my wife, and I have to confess, folks, this is absolutely a humiliation ritual that this woman would star in this movie and do these scenes with this young man. I'm telling you, folks, when I watched it with my wife, I said, this is a humiliation ritual, or it's what is expected when you get the phone call and you're at the very top of the A list and the phone call comes and says, you're doing this film. You owe us, and you're doing this film. Jeff, have you seen it? You probably haven't, huh?
I haven't seen an actual movie from Hollywood since probably Lord of the Rings, which I really liked. That's because Lord of the Rings actually is another sort of metaphor for how the world is. The Ring of Power is the ring that these satanic pedivores have. They control through the government, through the media, through all sorts of different things. So yeah, really the only Hollywood movies I've seen in the last 25 years is like Lord of the Rings and Matrix. And Hunger Games as well, because that also is an excellent metaphor for what's going on in the world today. But yeah, other than that, I've just seen the Jones Plantation. I should point out that Nicole Kidman was in a movie that was supposed to expose the entire sort of cabal and their pedivore things they do, which was Eyes Wide Shut, which they filmed for 4 years, and none of the actual stuff they filmed actually ended up, except for a very light sort of a story about two people, and they went to some parties, and there was some things happening and stuff like that. But they cut out all the stuff that Stanley Kubrick, who actually filmed the fake moon landings, it's pretty incredible. That he wanted to put in, which probably was going to expose their cannibals. They kill babies. They do stuff like that. And they actually killed him, I think, on the night before they released the movie as well. So she's got quite a history of being involved in these things. And of course, if you are a big name person in the media and movies and stuff like that, then you are in the big club. They all have to do those sort of things. And I haven't seen her latest movie. I probably won't. I don't really watch any of that stuff anymore, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's some sort of humiliation ritual or things like that. That's what they have to do to stay in the club.
Yeah. You know, the rumor regarding Eyes Wide Shut is when Stanley Kubrick was at the airing for the studio executives, it was said that people outside the theater could hear him screaming that they cut his film when he had final cut. And there's rumored to be 30 minutes at least of footage that was excerpted, that was edited out of that movie, even though Stanley had final cut. That one, of course, starred Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise when they were married. And they spent, I think, more than a year shooting it.
May I have the password, please?
Fidelio.
That's right, sir. That is the password for admittance. But may I ask, what is the password for the house?
The password for the house.
Yes?
I seem to have forgotten it.
That's unfortunate. Because here, it doesn't matter whether you have forgotten it or if you never knew it.
Now, again, another through line. This mass media, the mainstream horror, Mockingbird, CIA media, tells the people what to think, but their spell is wearing off. It's a lot like what we see at the Comex and the CME. The spell is wearing off, and nobody wants the paper silver. Nobody wants the lies from the mainstream media anymore, but you're going to get them. You're going to get them. If you think independently, folks, if you like some of the things Tucker has to say about Zionism, well, he's a bad guy. He's evil. If you like some of the things Candace is doing, uncovering the assassination of Charlie Kirk and who done it, who really done it, well, you're a monster and she's evil. This is priceless. They just rolled out soulless NBC, quote-unquote, news mercenary Brandy Zadrozny to tell people what to think about Candace Owens. The same Brandy Zadrozny, Jeff, who did multiple hit pieces against chlorine dioxide, and my friend Carrie Rivera specifically, vaccine deniers, etc. Folks, I've been following her for more than 10 years. This woman is pure evil. I want to play this in its entirety. Jeff, interrupt at any time. This is what they want the plebs to believe about Candace, or more specifically, how to feel about Erica Kirk.
Pictures within the MAGA coalition are on full display with right-wing influencer Candace Owens at the center of it. Owens is facing major backlash over her new online series. It's about Turning Point USA CEO Erica Kirk, the wife of late conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
Nobody knows why she's out there in a glittering pantsuit in a recreated tent that her husband tragically was murdered in, throwing merch out.
Everyone believes differently, so if someone's acting weird, don't read into that.
And there she was on set with me now, senior reporter Brandy Zadrozny. I remember when you were doing those live shots. But listen, Owens launches this one day after Erica Kirk was at the State of the Union. She was the president's guest, so I wonder what the reaction's been like.
You know, there are two. MAGA is no longer a cohesive political movement anymore. And there are, I like to think of them as the far right and the far out. And so you have this large collection of really far out people who traffic in conspiracy theories, who believe in sort of nothing, who, you know, think that the Epstein files is now proof point of what people like Alex Jones have been saying forever, that there's really a secret Jewish cabal of millionaires, you know, controlling everything, and just sort of live in this fact-free fantasy land.
I want to just pause it there. Just let that sink in, guys. Has she mentioned Pizzagate yet? I think she does. The far right and the far out. Boy, you want to talk about the fracturing of the union. This is it, folks. Anybody who read the Pizzagate emails, the WikiLeaks emails, she'll bring that up, or the new Jeffrey Epstein emails, is trafficking in conspiracy theories. Not children, conspiracy theories, folks.
And Candace Owens is the queen bee of this land right now. And, you know, it almost seems like, well, should we really pay attention to what, you know, a YouTuber, Candace Owens, says? But she really does have the attention and the imagination of a large wing of the MAGA movement. And what she's saying about Erica Kirk is really disgusting. It's all of these innuendos and suggestions that she said the other day that Erica Kirk should be dragged in front, dragged to the police station. And so, you know, no matter your politics, I think that, again, the shared sense of reality reality is also a shared sense of empathy. We can all see Erica Kirk and we can say, I may not have agreed with Charlie Kirk's politics, but he shouldn't have been murdered, and his wife certainly shouldn't be harassed now by these crazy right wingers.
And his kids shouldn't have been left without a father. So let me ask you about whether this is emblematic of a larger rift that's growing between MAGA, as you call them, the far right, and those far out folks.
It definitely is. It's really difficult right now for a lot of the people in MAGA land who were really the intellectual, giants within MAGA land, like Charlie Kirk, people like Ben Shapiro, who are now having to accept the fact that, Charlie Kirk hired Candace Owens. Ben Shapiro hired Candace Owens for the Daily Wire. These are people who have elevated her to where she is. A lot of MAGA has grown on the backs of conspiracy theories. Think about, the election loss. Think about Pizzagate and all of WikiLeaks. Stuff like that really was the engine for a lot of the conspiracy theories that drove the MAGA movement. And now certain people in the MAGA movement are saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. Not those. This is off limits. Unfortunately, when you open a box like that, it's really hard to put it back inside.
It's just unbelievable. So this is the kind of news, Jeff, we get in the United States. I don't watch MSNBC now, which has been rebranded as MS. I got to tell you, this woman is a vapid, soulless witch who would sell her own children, if she had any, for profit. And I'm surprised she's not named in the Epstein client list, because I mean, seriously, what do you make of that clip? And by the way, please don't tell me they didn't actually murder Charlie Kirk and he's alive and well. Or maybe he is. I don't even know what to believe anymore.
Well, all I can tell you is I don't watch any of that stuff ever. I was actually in a few hotels over the last year where they actually had the CNN or the MSNBC, or when I was in Europe, the BBC blaring over the television in the lobby. And even watching it for 1 or 2 minutes, I can't believe what I'm seeing. Like, even seeing that, that was just, I don't even know how to respond to that. It's like from an alternate reality or something, where they're trying to act like a lot of reality doesn't exist, and trying to brush it off and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm not surprised. As far as Charlie Kirk, I don't actually believe anything that we see ever. I look at the evidence. I don't know if Charlie's alive or not, because that's how far they go down. This is this production company, which Mossad said they are, on 60 Minutes last year. They said, we're the producers, we're the directors, we're the main actors, the world is our stage. They have trillions of dollars, and they have massive productions that they do. So yeah, I don't even know what happened with that. But if you look at just on the face of it, it looked like Charlie Kirk had finally woken up to the scourge of the Zionists and a lot of the Jewish stuff, and was starting to talk about it. And that's when he got all his threats. Ben Shapiro, I still remember he was on Ben Shapiro's show. That was the last show he was on, and Ben was talking to him like he was a dead man. And then I found it really incredible that as soon as he was dead, the first person to host the show was J.D. Vance of the government. The government's hosting his show now. And then the second person was Mossad agent Ben Shapiro. So very interesting. I don't know exactly what happened, but I know it wasn't some kid on the roof who assembled a rifle and got away and hit it, and he's a tranny. And as usual, the government and the mainstream media narrative is the most insane story of them all. Just like 9/11, that a guy in a cave in Afghanistan and some guys with box cutters hit 2 buildings with 2 planes and knocked down 3 buildings, which is not really possible. So all of their conspiracy theories are actually insane.
Yeah, I agree. And Brandy Zadrozny remarks about Candace using just innuendo. Anybody who's followed that work knows it's not innuendo. It's connecting the dots between family lineage, the military-industrial complex, lies that have been told repeatedly by Erica Kirk. She can't supply an alibi for where she was on September 8th, 9th, or 10th. Was she at Fort Huachuca on the 8th? There's so many questions, and it's all being looked into by Candace Owens, and so now the Zionists have been circling the wagons. Have you been seeing what's happening on X? I mean, they're coming after Candace like no one I have ever seen, and I've been at this nearly 20 years like you. Maybe you've been at this longer than me, Jeff. I've never seen them come after anybody like Candace Owens, maybe with the exception of Alex Jones. But it's funny that Alex Jones has actually exposed himself a bit on this too, because he started going after Candace Owens pretty hard, and that woke a lot of people up. So it's just, I think it's very, very puzzling. You can comment on that. The other thing I wanted to say is that it appears that Charlie was assassinated with an exploding microphone with all of the hallmarks of electrocution. So I don't know, guys. We're going to keep following this story because I think it's the biggest story in the world in terms of helping people wake up, Jeff. That and the Epstein emails.
Yeah, you'd think the Epstein emails would wake up a lot of people, and it appears to be doing that, and that's good. This is, in my opinion, I've talked about this a lot. This is the apocalypse, the lifting of the veil, and that just means that people are starting to see how this world actually works, what's actually going on here, and that most of it's controlled by satanic pedivores. So that's what's actually going on. I actually don't pay too much attention to even like Candace Owens or X or anything like that. I really don't. Even Candace Owens, to an extent, she says she's a Mason. She gets a lot of views, which is very suspicious because usually if you get like millions and millions of views in this world on platforms like X or any of the main platforms, that usually means that you're kind of like in controlled opposition or controlled and stuff like that. Alex Jones has clearly shown himself. I'm not even sure that's Alex Jones. Like, remember when he changed completely about a year ago from kind of like this overweight guy to a tanned, bald guy all of a sudden, and he started acting very different. Talking about cloning, they actually have in the cloning that Britney Spears was cloned. I think that's pretty obvious when you look at the new Britney, how she acts. And with
Is that in the email?
Teeth.
Is that in the Epstein emails?
Yeah, there's like 3 million documents. It's going to take years to go through it all. But yeah, that's part of it was someone talking about how they cloned Britney Spears. Of course, we saw the Joe Biden clones. That's also talked about in the Epstein documents. There was the 7-foot-tall NBA playing Joe Biden. That was I couldn't believe they even like tried to act like that was Joe Biden. So they got lots of their clone stuff going on. Maybe Alex Jones is a clone. I saw Jim Carrey today. Looks just totally different all of a sudden. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I saw that clip. And, I just want to point out for the audience that you cannot have enough contempt for the Mockingbird CIA media. You cannot despise them enough. Now, Brandy Zad Rosny is literally a mercenary. She will do anything. She will bear false witness against her neighbor for money. Okay, she's evil to the core because that, I got to tell you, out of the 10 commandments, aside from thou shalt have no other gods above me and thou shalt not kill, I think bearing false witness should be right up there in the top 5 because it is indefensible to lie about your neighbor and destroy their reputation when you know you're lying. I think you're going to have to account to God for that, and Brandy certainly will have to do that. Oh, and by the way, interesting to listen to them disparage Candace Owens in any investigation into Pizzagate or the Epstein emails, when now we know the youngest Epstein victim, Jeff, you ready for this, was still attached to the umbilical cord. I mean, honestly, and these people won't cover that? This audience does not have enough disdain and contempt for Brandy Zad Rosny and NBC quote-unquote news and the entire Zionist media complex, Jeff.
Absolutely, it's sick, and the things that those people are doing is the most sickest stuff you could ever imagine. But I think it's great that people are waking up to it now, and we'll see what happens. I don't expect anything to come out from like the government to do anything, so like trials or anything like that. All the same people who control all of that are the people doing it. I think people really need to get back to taking their responsibility and their power back into their own hands. Stop obeying anything that they tell you to do, and begin just living outside of their systems. And that's really what I've been doing for a long time. And I think that's a lot more of the answer of how we get out from this. And of course, also stop giving them all your money. That's called taxation. That's a massive scam. That's where they get a lot of their money. And then where do they get the rest of their money? They get it from controlling the money system, which is, of course, the Rothschilds originally. It's the central banks now. And they also inflate the currency and make everyone poorer as they're doing it. But it also, what people don't realize is that there's people call money currency, or at least the currency that we have today, they call it currency. That comes from a current, an energetic current. And actually, I believe it was the Rothschilds who said that whoever controls the money controls the world. And it's true for a reason, because if you control the money and you are controlling everything, you can basically control most other things, because most people will sell their soul for money. And then you can control basically everything with the money system. So stop giving them your money and stop using their money. So that'd be dollars, euros, Mexican pesos, whatever it is. Start using gold, silver. Monero is the best cryptocurrency for it because it's a privacy cryptocurrency that kind of hijacked Bitcoin, which is what Roger Ver talked about in his book. So those are the main two things that people need to do. And I know it's kind of interesting that a lot of people, especially in the US, will say that, oh, if I stop giving them my money, then they'll throw me in a cage. It's like, okay, well, at least admit you're a slave, because that's how it works, right? If someone keeps extorting you and you won't, and if you stop, they'll kidnap you or even kill you if you try to run away. At least come to the acceptance that you're a slave, and that's fine. And then start to figure out how you're going to get out from under that slavery system.
You know, you mentioned that people can be bought with money. I'm shocked at how easily people can be bought. I'm really, truly shocked to see so many of these big named influencers on X. Cat Turd, Steven Crowder, Tim Pool. I had the list in front of me the other day. Let me grab it because these people need to be called out. Insurrection Barbie, the unfunny Rob Schneider, Gunther Eagleman, Graham Allen, Hans Shaughnessy, Robbie Starbuck, Nathan Livingstone, all bending the knee to a Zionist entity to disparage Candace Owens for daring to ask questions about CEO of TPUSA, Erica Kirk, who is a public figure. She can't hide as a widow anymore because she took the role of CEO, folks, and there's lots of questions about TPUSA finances at the very least. Now, what I want to ask Jeff is about this imminent war with Iran. None of us voted for this. Now, the Zionists are all foaming at the mouth, but these are the same Zionists who control the Mossad. And as Jeff noted, this is what they stated on 60 Minutes.
How did you convince Hezbollah to buy this?
Well, obviously, they didn't know that they were buying it from Israel.
Who did they buy it from, or think they were buying it from?
We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel, shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. And the world is our stage.
Jeff, when I first saw that on X, I did not retweet it for probably a day or two because I was convinced it had to be AI. I couldn't even fathom that 60 Minutes would put this out on the air and that it was authentic. And now I realize it's just the revelation of the method. It's basically the announcement that we run your government, we basically run the world, what you going to do about it? I mean, that's my takeaway from it, because that's not journalism. That's literally propaganda for the Mossad.
Yeah, I was the same way. When I first saw it, I thought it couldn't be real. So I had to look into it. And then when I found out it was real, I was like, okay, I can't believe they put that out. Like, that was just in everyone's face. And then I noticed no one was talking about it. Like, literally no one on the internet even mentioned it. I think most people, if they ever did see it, they kind of thought it must not be real as well, or they didn't want to look into what the actual truth of the matter is. But yeah, that is actually the case, and that's what controls most things. Even TPUSA looks like it was a massive like money laundering organization that was involved in all kinds of election sort of fraud related things. I actually heard from Max Egan that almost I don't know if you know this, but most people at Turning Point are actually like closet gays.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been looking at all this stuff. So yeah,
Candace calls them out by name. I believe Tyler Boyer is on that list too. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so like everything's kind of like that. They have so much money that they've been able to take from people through the extortion and also through the control of the money supply and the inflation and stuff like that. They can do so many things. Like, even as an example, here in Mexico, just last week, I was in Puerto Vallarta when basically they had what I would call a false flag terror attack in Puerto Vallarta, which was mostly a show. It was quite incredible to see. It was like all of the police all of a sudden disappeared all at once, all on Sunday morning, and all of a sudden there was all these buses burning all over the city and a bunch of stores burning. And there was no police for that entire day or the next day. They just left to let this operation continue on. Not many people were hurt by it, but it created a lot of commotion and a lot of fear. And they got Alex Jones saying that, the U.S. needs to go and attack Mexico because it's so dangerous and all this sort of stuff. I was there. It was a bunch of things were burning for a while, and then that was basically it. But a lot of people say, "Oh, this is the cartels." Well, you have to understand that at the highest level, most people who've looked into this knows this. The CIA controls most of the drug trade in the world. This is, very obvious what they're doing in Afghanistan with the heroin and all that kind of stuff. And it's the same thing at the higher level of the bigger cartels in Mexico. They basically control it. Like El Chapo's wife, when she was in court, she wore the Star of Moloch because that's basically who they work for. So just like with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, ISIS is basically Mossad, Al-Qaeda is basically the CIA. They even get them to fight each other sometimes in Syria. It's very similar with the higher level cartel sort of stuff in Mexico. It's also controlled by the same people. So they set these things up in order to try to bring in a big government solution, to bring in biometric IDs. It's all the usual problem, reaction, solution type stuff. And it's all done by the same people. It's the same producers, directors, and actors. And the great thing is that people are starting to actually figure this out now, which is great.
Yeah, I feel it too, at least the circles I run in. And I have a couple of friends, Josh from Dream Body Clinic in Puerto Vallarta. He and I spoke. He says much the same as what you do regarding all of that. Diane Kaiser, who is in the Yucatan Peninsula area, that would be the Cancun, Playa del Carmen area. And she says much the same thing, extremely peaceful. I mean, it was very, very limited violence. And the official story goes like this. El Mencho, the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, was killed by Mexican military forces with U.S. intelligence support. And then what I'm hearing, I don't know if you know more than I do, you probably do, I'm hearing that this guy was already an old man, really in retirement, and that this was all for show. It just seems like we live in such a broken paradigm as this nation appears ready to start bombing Iran, a peaceful country that has never attacked us, Jeff. And I didn't vote for this. I want to be very clear. I did not vote for the death and murder that's about to take place in Iran.
Yeah, you never really do vote for most things. As you know, you get kind of fooled. They say all kinds of stuff. Remember when Donald Trump said he was going to bring all the troops home? Remember when he said he was going to end all the wars? He was going to end the Russia-Ukraine war in the first 24 hours. He was not going to give any foreign aid anymore, but he's continued on with the Ukraine and Israel, of course. He was going to balance the budget, pay off the debt, go on and on and on and on and on. And that's what they say. And then once they're in there, they do pretty much the exact opposite. So it's no surprise, of course. What's been kind of surprising to me is just how quickly they're doing all these things and how openly they're doing it. You have Charles Letnick, who was clearly tipped off on 9/11, and he was one of only two people who didn't go to the trade centers that morning. The other was Lucky Larry Silverberg, who had a double terrorist insurance payment plan on his asbestos-filled buildings for that day. You have Letnick behind him, and like the amount of just moving full forward with the Zionism stuff has even shocked me. I didn't think they were going to go this fast and this open about it. They're just, you have Benjamin Netanyahu. His real name is Milkowski, of course. He's from Poland. None of those people are from the Middle East. They're actually from Khazaria. He's in the White House, every 6 weeks or so? Donald Trump pulls out his chair, he walks out, and then another war starts, and it's all on behalf of Israel. Yeah, it's been pretty incredible to watch. And yeah, now the next one's Iran, of course. That's a huge one. That was even targeted way back during 9/11, which is also a Mossad CIA operation, when Wesley Clark said that he got a list of 7 countries they were going to attack in the next 5 years, he said. Every country, I believe, on that list has been attacked now, including Iran, which they kind of did a small attack on last year. But every single one has been attacked. It was Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, and a few others, Sudan, which they've been attacking. I think Yemen was on there. And then the last one was Iran, and that's the big one. They want to do. But in my opinion, it's actually that's all a show. I think all these countries are actually controlled by all the same people, including the Mexican government, which is actually run by a Jewish president now. Maduro in Venezuela, he's a Sephardic Jew. I think they put these people into place and they act like there's these different countries and they cause all this chaos to bring in basically their New World Order, which is all going to be AI and technocratic control, basically like a fascism, sort of a Palantir thing. And the people who actually are doing all this actually hate all people. So they want to enslave, make sick, and kill all people on Earth. But they're so devious at how they do it. And most people never really can get their head around just how much of everything that they do is all staged, planned, and an operation, a problem, reaction, solution, a Hegelian dialectic to get people to actually want their own slavery and destruction.
Yeah. I'm just taking a few notes here because you're hitting some chords with me in terms of Lucky Lutnick and Lucky Larry Silverstein. I can confirm, going off memory here, that I think it's 658 employees at Cantor Fitzgerald perished when those buildings collapsed, but their fearless leader, Howard Lutnick, for the first time ever, wasn't there because he decided to take his kid to school, I think first day of kindergarten. So that's just very fortunate for Lucky Lutnick. And I just want to drive
something interesting there, because you've been talking about Erica Kirk, and you know how she never has any tears, and she's always like, oh, all this sort of stuff. There's actually a video of Lutnick right after 9/11 crying about the 700 families, and it's almost like watching Erica Kirk. He's like trying to dry his eyes that aren't crying, and all these people, they're on the big club.
I think they are too. And just to support what you're saying, we've got Macron in France, former Rothschild banker, his wife, who's a dude. That expose was handled quite well by Candace. Now she's moving on to Erica. And what else do we have? We have Justin Trudeau in Canada, who is the son, the offspring, we're told, of Pierre Trudeau, who is also a notorious pedophile, who there was blackmail against him that was collected by David Rockefeller, according to a child sex slave, Aneka, who went live. I believe that's her name. I'm going to have to go back and check. But these people are all groomed for their roles, and I think Erica is one of those people as well. But what I wanted to ask you, or at least bring up for the audience in regards to the power of Israel and its sway over our government. Of course, we've got the Prime Minister, Netanyahu, who I think is about as peaceful or loving as the devil himself. They've leveled Gaza. They've committed an absolute genocide. But who does Netanyahu answer to? The House of Rothschild. Who did Epstein answer to? The House of Rothschild. It's in the emails, quote, as you may know, I represent the Rothschild family, end quote, Jeffrey Epstein. So, sometimes I take heat for always going back to House of Rothschild and Rockefeller, but I think it's pretty central to our conversation, Jeff, as we are now about to wage war with Iran, when it was Mother Rothschild who said 200 plus years ago, if my sons didn't want there to be wars, there would not be any wars.
Absolutely. And the Rothschilds aren't even at the top of the pyramid. They're just the ones that we can see, but they're in control of all that. Of course, Israel itself was started by the Rothschilds with basically a completely central banker set up war, World War II, which they even set up all that. They're incredible. They're the most devious, nefarious, intelligent people. I actually think that it's not even just people that are behind this. I think it's essentially non-human forces that are behind them. And of course, in the Bible type stuff, they talk about how this world is ruled by basically Satan, you could say. And that's generally the case, yes. And it's been that way for a long time. And that's who's really doing a lot of these things. It's pretty incredible. And that's why I think really at the end of the day, all you need to do is stop giving them your power, stop giving them your money, stop using their money, and then really connect yourself with God. That's really what you need to do. And that's how you get through all of this stuff. And I think there's actually going to be some really incredible good times coming soon. I think they're losing a lot of their power. And I think we're going to start, we're actually already seeing that. I think that's what we're seeing. That's why everything seems so crazy now. They're losing their power very quickly. They're trying to keep it together. Everything's going to be collapsing, which is good, but you have to be prepared for that as well. And that's why, like even financially, you should subscribe to our newsletter, the Dollar Vigilante, dollarvigilante.com. We talk all about this. That was actually the initial intention of our newsletter, was to prepare people for this. And it's going to be wild. Of course, all the AI stuff going on now, that's getting absolutely insane. There's so many things all happening at once here right now. It's pretty incredible.
It is. And I think what's incredible too, and let's just call her out one more time for the soulless, vapid mercenary she is, who would sell probably her own mother into slavery for a paycheck. I'm alleging that she's that evil. I don't know that she's that evil, but judge for yourself. The latest from Brandy Zadrozny. You ready for this, guys? The conspiracy crowd's reaction to the Epstein emails. Yawn. The Epstein emails, just one big yawn. How about this one? There's no question where Cheryl Hines stands on vaccines now. That's the wife of RFK Jr. God forbid anybody have questions about autism, aluminum, mercury, formaldehyde in the vaccines. How about the mRNA poison experimental shot? Here's one for you. Why the conspiratorial right rallied around a flock of ostriches. Maybe we should talk about this one. This is a really good case study. The ostriches at the ostrich farm, the peaceful birds said to have bird flu that the government would not test for, and yet they came in and destroyed the birds, put them in a corral, penned them in a corral, and shot them on the family farm. These are ostriches that were between 5 and 45, 50 years old. These were basically pets. And the government came in and said, watch us. Just watch us. What you going to do about it? By the way, Jeff, did you know that one of the leading causes of death now in Canada, the same Canada where the ostriches were murdered, culled for no good reason? One of the leading causes of death now in Canada is government-assisted suicide. 1 in 20 deaths is attributed to government-assisted suicide. And I saw an item yesterday, a news item on Twitter. I should have retweeted it. It said, 26-year-old man, otherwise healthy, who suffered from depression, suicided with the help of the government. I mean, these people are from the pits of hell, Jeff.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. The Canadian government even, it kind of leaked, I think, that they intend to kill, I think it's around 50% of the population of Canada in the next decade or two with their government suicide program and they actually laid it out. They said because of our communist socialized medical system and deficits and the debt and the population isn't keeping up with it, they're going to have to kill off about half the population. They actually said this, and I haven't heard hardly any Canadians even talking about it. But that's all part of this. That's what Satan Klaus Schwab had in his Great Reset as well, talking about, population demographics and AI and what are we going to do with all these people? We got to get rid of them. Of course, the COVIDs, the vaccines was a big part of that. And they have now way bigger ones with the $500 billion that Trump and Jewish billionaire Larry Ellison announced on day 2 of Trump's presidency. They're going to have AI vaccine centers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty wild, all this stuff going on. They really want to impoverish, make sick, and kill everyone on Earth. That's really what they want to do. I know, but it shouldn't be that hard for people to understand, or at least get their head around now, because we've actually all seen it. That's what the whole COVID stuff was all about. This is very obvious to people, and I know a lot of people were like catching on to that, figuring that out, and they thought that Trump was going to get in and kill Gates in jail and put Fraudzy in jail and Burla. No, he invited them all over to the White House, and they all did billion-dollar contracts, which is everything that I expected, because I knew that they're all on the same team. And yeah, that's the kind of stuff going on. It's wild living in this apocalypse.
I want to ask you one last question about living in Mexico in just one second, but this Mockingbird horror really needs to be laid to bear. CDC over, RFK Jr. lays off 1,000 employees in Friday Night Massacre. Here's the thumbnail, save the CDC. This witch will write anything that the powers that ought not be tell her to write and try to spin it to keep the public in line with officialdom. Here's one. He helped build the anti-vaccine movement. RFK Jr. just hired him. So God forbid anybody, again, question the safety and efficacy of vaccines. And by the way, just ask your doctor if Humira is right for you. And this last one, I want to leave you with this. Trump, without new evidence, tries to link Tylenol with autism. Now, again, folks, our oldest is on the spectrum. And what happened every time he got a high fever after a baby well visit? We'd rush him to the doctor and they'd say, take him home, give him Tylenol. And now we know that that may play a role in causing autism. But Brandy Zadrozny doesn't want you to know that. And she certainly doesn't want you to know about the effectiveness, the helpfulness of chlorine dioxide for everybody in all walks of life. Jeff, you know a little bit about chlorine dioxide, right? Brandy Zadrozny calls it bleach.
I don't actually know a ton about it. I have used it myself in the past. But yeah, anything that the government or these sort of people tell you not to do, you should probably do it. And everything they say that you should do, like vaccines, you should never do it. That's how it works right now. And it's pretty incredible. They're trying to get nanotech into everybody. Donald Trump just said that they're coming out with the 6G now to let them see a little further under your skin. So you really need to take control. This is actually number one, really, when it comes to how are you going to get through all of this stuff that they're doing. And obviously, number one is your own physical health. If you don't have that, you really don't have anything in this matrix. So obviously, you need to take care of that. And I should mention there's been an incredible innovation or rediscovery come out just in the last few years of plasma, which is what Nikola Tesla was working on about 100 years ago. And Donald Trump's uncle and the CIA stole it, along with like the Rockefellers and all that, because they wanted to keep their big pharma and all their fake medicine stuff going. And they did a really good job of it for about 100 years. But now during the apocalypse, a lot of things are coming to light, and plasma technology is back. And I've actually got it. It basically heals and cures everything. It's incredible. It also gives you incredible energy. It also de-ages you. I know it's hard to believe, but I've actually done it. So I'm 55 years old. I did it for about a year, and then I got a quantum biofeedback machine, and my tissue age is the same as a 30-year-old, and the energy of my cells is the same as a 10-year-old. So that's just from 1 year of using the plasma. It's also so helpful with a lot of the nanotech stuff. That stuff actually drains a lot of your energy, and the plasma can help bring that back, and it can also help uncoagulate your blood. So there's been at least one person that Max Egan actually used the machine on, and she had myocarditis, and after 1 month, she didn't have it anymore. It unclumps, it gets rid of the blood clots, which almost everyone has now. So people should be aware of that. That's actually out there now. I should mention the website because there's a lot of scammers and stuff out there, but it's tzla.club. And it's like an underground sort of a thing, because obviously Big Pharma does not want this to get out there. You can mostly play with cryptocurrency. You don't know where it comes from, but it gets shipped almost everywhere in the world as like a free science kit. So it gets by all Trump's tariffs and all the taxes and all the customs people and all that. So there's lots of important and good things out there for people to survive everything that's being thrown at them, including like the chemtrails. There's a lot of stuff in those chemtrails as well. But there's ways to get a lot of that stuff out.
Yeah, and Masterpiece is a product. It's a zeolite-based product. It's the science is pretty evident that it's helping clean up people's blood. But you said something important. I might title this one "The Apocalypse," because as scary a word as that is, it's actually just the unveiling, right? It's the darkness being brought into the light. It's the falling away of the scales from our eyes. And I just think that's exactly what we've been going through since about 2012. And there seems to be a quickening happening, Jeff. So that's the good news.
Yeah, there's a total quickening happening. Everyone can see that now. Us conspiracy theorists, we're like, it's a good thing I got my Tesla plasma machine, because otherwise I couldn't keep up with all these false flags. It's like a false flag every day. It's a hoax. It's some war, some propaganda, some misdirection, numerous psyops, like almost every single day now. And yeah, that's what it is. It's the apocalypse, lifting of the veil, and a lot of people are starting to wake up now. So that's good. So now the question is, what's going to happen next? And I guess we'll see. But the most important thing, really, it starts with yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of your physical, your mental, spiritual. And once you get to that spiritual level, everything's fine. And it always will be fine, basically, because this is, not exactly base level reality. We're essentially living in basically the mind of God and having these experiences. But it is such an incredible experience, and what a time really to be alive. The next few years is going to be unbelievable, both in really horrible things and also really incredible things. So hopefully you and many people in your audience do what it takes. And I just said it: physical, mental, spiritual. to get through the next few years. And we're going to see a lot of their systems all collapsing in just the next 2 years. But you have to be ready for it, right? If you're not ready for it, you could get really hurt in it. And that's why I say subscribe to our newsletter, the Dollar Vigilante. That's where we talk about. That's what it's like. The apocalypse newsletter basically is what it is. And I should mention, we just finished in Acapulco that we had so many incredible speakers there. David Icke, of course, Max Egan, and Christoph Melchizedek, and so many other speakers. We had about 50 to 100 speakers. You can still get all the replays of that at narcapulco.com, and I would recommend it because that's what we talked about the entire week was how to get ready and survive what's coming. And then at the very end of the week, we actually got a free trial test run from the system itself, trying to do another false flag terror attack type thing, trying to scare everyone, but because many of us have done the work, it didn't scare us at all, and we actually had no problem through it. We actually continued on with the event, even with like the explosions and the gunshots going on outside. We never stopped our event. So that's the way to do it. And yeah, that's what you got to do. It's no time right now at all to just relax, to just drink some beer and watch some sports ball. Like, you need to be getting prepared. Everyone needs to get prepared. The next few years is going to be pretty bumpy. Let's just put it that way. And if you're not prepared, you can have a really bad time. So I would just suggest that everyone really, does the work, physical, mental, and spiritual.
Last question for you, just about Mexico. The Jewish president, Claudia Sheinbaum, you mentioned her. I'm well aware of who she is, and it's puzzling to me that the Mexican people would have voted for her. But okay, she's president. What is life in Mexico like under Sheinbaum? Has it deteriorated? Is it getting worse? For people that are now fearful of Mexico because of the propaganda that we saw the other day in Puerto Vallarta, what would you say?
I would say that Mexico has been and still is one of the freest countries on earth, far freer than the U.S. in most ways. Very incredible lifestyle. There's very little government involvement in anything. That's why some people will say it's a failed state, which actually I like. I don't want a successful state. A successful state looks like the U.S. government or the Israeli government. I want a failed government at the very best, basically, or worst, whichever way you look at it. So not a lot of people actually pay attention to the government. They don't give them a lot of their money. They don't listen to them. So it doesn't actually really matter who they say the president is. It really doesn't. When I saw that they said it was a Jewish president, I was like, okay, here we go. Because, we've had that in Venezuela. There's Maduro. He's a Sephardic Jew. In Argentina, you have Javier Milei, who said he was a narco-capitalist, but then all of a sudden became a massive Zionist and that sort of a thing. So when I saw that, I was, definitely my ears perked up. Oh, a Jewish president now. Because out of interest, there was about 100 years ago, Mexico had a Jewish president about 100 years ago. And the Jewish president tried to kill all the Catholics in Mexico, which is basically everyone in Mexico. So I was like, is that going to happen again? But so far, it hasn't been that bad. I was actually very impressed, or at least happy to hear that Sheinbaum didn't join the Trump's Board of Peace, which is the board of war, basically. And she said it was because they didn't allow Palestine on the board. I think she had to do that because so many Mexicans are very aware of this Israel situation and are super on the Palestinian side. So she has to do stuff like that or they'll kill her, basically. And that's how it works in Mexico. If she does anything that people don't like, she'll probably be dead, which is great. That's the way it should be, really. And so no, it hasn't really affected much. The biggest threat at the moment is the Trump regime trying to attack Mexico. And that's actually what happened last week. They were behind that. They said they're going to attack the cartels. The cartels are basically CIA Mossad operations as well. So it's all a big show to create all this chaos and basically bring in their new world order, their Amero technate, the technocrat map that Elon Musk's grandfather had like 100 years ago, which includes all the way from Greenland, interestingly enough, all the way down to Venezuela, interestingly enough. That's supposed to be all one region, and that's actually what they're trying to do. So hopefully they're not successful here in Mexico. I don't think they were successful with their most recent false flag Hardly anyone even, like people in Puerto Vallarta for the most part, went inside for a few hours, waited until they stopped burning the buses and stuff, and then just went out and continued on with life as normal. So it wasn't very successful in making a lot of fear and making people want more government or the U.S. to come save them or any of this sort of stuff. So yeah, not a lot has really changed, actually. It's still a great place in my opinion. But the entire world's going to be dangerous to an extent in the next few years because everything's going to be collapsing. Safety is an illusion, no matter where you are. You're never totally safe, although you are totally safe if you have done the physical, mental, and spiritual work. Then you're always safe. And I don't mean just even you. I mean your soul, basically. So there's nothing to worry about, but you do have to be smart over the next few years to get through what's going to happen.
Yeah, and by the way, in the Bible, guys, I think it's the most oft repeated phrase, be not afraid, do not fear. Some 360 plus times in the Bible, it says that. And the last thing I want to note, again, we're kind of coming full circle here. Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson are the two personalities in the United States that are the most targeted by the apparatus of control in our nation. And why is that? Well, one reason is Candace is uncovering what happened to Charlie Kirk, who Brigitte Macron really is, etc. But she also said, regarding Gaza, for anybody who goes there to vacation in the future, once they turn it into, Qatar 2.0, you will be cursed and your children will be cursed because that is a blood-soaked land where genocide occurred. And the last thing I want to say, God, I know we're going long here, is you know why Tucker's being targeted, Jeff? Because he had the audacity to go to Israel and interview the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, who did such a sensationally horrible job that now U.S. aircraft carriers are not allowed to dock in the Middle East. Former allies of the United States, based on what Huckabee said, which is basically Greater Israel means they can take whatever they want.
Logistics in the region is very problematic right now. Places we formerly were able to utilize, we can't because of the Huckabee interview, frankly. That particular revelation has turned almost everybody against us in the region. So the Navy is now looking as far away as India and ports there.
That did not go over well in the Middle East. So it's all coming to light, and I welcome it. I just pray to God this weekend, as we're recording this conversation, I pray to God we're not going into World War III, Jeff. I'll give you the final word. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I don't know. This Iran thing could happen at any minute. The key thing is to do what I said. Just physical, get your physical good. Tesla machine can help with that. Mental, meditate and pray every day. And that actually gets you spiritually connected, and then everything's just fine. No matter what happens, everything's just fine because you realize this is all kind of just happening in the mind of God, and it's all basically your own true man show. What an incredible, I call this like a 3D video game because that's kind of like what it is. Like even Jesus said that when he said, I am in this world, not of this world. So basically video games weren't around back then, so he couldn't use that analogy. But, this is like not the base level reality, right, of basically what we are. So yeah, there's nothing to worry about, but it definitely it's a wild ride. And thank you for having me on, Sean. It's always a pleasure to come on. I really like how you change over time when new evidence comes to light. A lot of people won't do that. So I again give you a lot of respect that you were kind of fooled, I think, by some of the Trump stuff originally, and you've kind of spoken up about it now, and that's great. And really respect that you are able to change your mind based on new evidence that comes to light. And that's all we can do is bring as much information to the light as possible, and everyone else can just do with it what they'd like.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. And look, one thing I will never do, and it's my pledge to God in heaven and to my audience, is I will never sell out to the Zionists, the Satanists, the Luciferians, the people that control this world, and many, 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 many big people with big platforms on X have clearly done so. And if they didn't actually take the blood money, they certainly bent the knee so they can continue to enjoy the algorithms which prop them up. So one way or the other, guys, some of those names I mentioned earlier, They've definitely bent the knee, and I would say sold their souls. And when I say that, I'm talking 30 pieces of silver in the sense that Judas sold out Jesus Christ. And that stuff will haunt you. By the way, the last thing I want to say, when Candace came back a week after Charlie was assassinated, she took a week off to mourn the man. She came back and said, in the future, by the way, she said, I think this whole thing was a military op. That's been proven to be true. She said, in the future, I think there will be a name that will be disavowed in the future, much the way the name Judas. Nobody names their kid Judas anymore. There will be a name that emerges from this. I said to my wife last night, boy, I don't think it's going to be Tyler Boyer. I don't think it's going to be Josh Hammer. It looks like that name is Erica. Stay tuned, folks. Judge for yourself. Our guest has been the one, the only, Jeff Berwick, Dollar Vigilante. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Chug.
As always, a pleasure.